Thank you so much, Carolyn. I'm wearing this little ear thing here, and it is designed for people with normal-sized ears. So I'm worried it's going to fall off, and for people that have earlobes, which I don't have. And so if it does fall off, I apologize for that. But thank you, Carolyn. Also, I think we should give Carolyn and Graham a round of applause while they're done with this. Considering my past with Flip Class, it is truly an honor to be here. All of the slides are online, and I'll post up the link at the end. But I'm not going to come here as an expert. I'm here to share my journey with you because I've been privileged to connect with a number of you and a number of people who aren't here who have changed my view of education, my view of life. And so hopefully I can share my journey, and I will provide some advice. But it's not designed to really tell you what to do. But first of all, I do want to share a little bit about who I am beyond my role in education. That is me in Halloween. I am a father of twin daughters, 3-year-olds. So at the time, they lived in the world of Dora and Diego. And so one went as Diego, the other one went as Baby Jaguar, so I thought it was fitting for me to go as Dora. You can imagine the principal of an elementary school that comes as Dora, creates a bit of a buzz in the school. But now they live in the land of Frozen. And if you have young kids, I'm sure you are as well versed in those songs as I am. And I have 2 daughters, so one is Anna and one is Elsa. And I want to give you a glimpse of what it's like to be a father of a 3-year-old if you don't remember or if you're not there yet. So 2 weeks ago, I got home from work, and I moved to a new school, and I'm closer to home, so I get to see my daughters more often, and it's been an awesome experience being closer to home. So I get home, and they're really excited, and the Let It Go is playing, and I'm dancing with them, and I dance with one daughter and swing her around. I dance with the other daughter, and she says, swing faster, swing faster. So I'm swinging her around, and all of a sudden, something popped. And she sat there and didn't say anything. Okay, it's going to be fine. And then the cry, that silent cry, happened. And so off to the ER we go, and she's telling everybody that Daddy hurt her. And so I'm waiting for the Ministry of Children and Families to show up. But yeah, I did pop her elbow out, but the doctor popped her right back in, and she was fine. Let's go home, I don't want to be there anymore. So needless to say, I'm not allowed to play with my daughters anymore. My wife has ordered a bubble, apparently, for me to play with them. The other thing that my wife owns a dance studio, and so my kids are dancers. They're 3-year-old dancers, but they dance nonstop, like most 3-year-olds. And the other day, so this is like 3 days ago, and I'm just trying to give you a glimpse of what it's like to be me. And when it's quiet in the house when you have 2 3-year-olds, that's not a good thing. They're into something. And so it's quiet, so I walk down the hall, and I see my daughter practicing her plie. Okay, cute, right? Well, not really, because she's doing a plie over the sink without her pants on, because she's peeing like Daddy. And so first of all, I learned 2 things. Apparently, in her mind, it's quicker to do that. And also, that girls can pee and aim at the same time. So that just gives you a little glimpse of my experience. So to come here and not have this in the morning, do you want to build a snowman every morning with your eyes opening up? It was nice to be here. I love my daughter. It's been a nice break for me. So I do want to share my journey, and having kids has truly changed who I am as an educator. Because what matters to me is creating the change not only for my students, but also my kids. They're going to be starting their educational journey in 2 years when they enter kindergarten. And during that time, I really, really hope that they continue to have a joy in learning and love learning and have that curiosity, because we all know young kids have that. It can be annoying at times, but they love learning. They want to know everything. I hope they stay curious. I hope they get engaged in authentic learning. And I really hope that I get a window in to their learning. Because as a principal, I'm not going to be able to go to their school very often, much like you as teachers. We're not going to be able to get into our kids' schools. So I hope that their teachers will use technology so I can have a window in and share in their learning journey. And also, that through assessment, that we can assess together with a digital portfolio so we can see their journey through it. And maybe that's a fresh grade is here, and they're doing that. Right? So we're going to be able to see that. And I don't want my kids to be defined, and I don't want my students to be defined by a number to the 100th decimal point. Nor do I want them to be defined by a standardized test. I want them to be defined on their learning journey of who they are. And so it really drives me even more having kids at that age level. My role today is to encourage you to connect with others. I'm not going to talk a lot about technology. That's kind of preaching to the choir. But I do want to talk about the relationships. We are here because of those relationships. You've connected with someone that's brought you here. Maybe it's you connected with an idea, but you connected with something that's brought you here. And as I attend conferences, I always ask myself, what will me being here today change what I do tomorrow? And Dean Sharesky added something to that. He said, yes, you want to take one or two ideas away, but it's really about the connection you have with those people. So who are you going to take away? What relationships are you going to take away with you being here that's going to continue that learning beyond that? Because your learning shouldn't just stop today. It's going to continue. There are lots of people here that can help you with that. It is about connection. It's about that human connection. One of my favorite authors is Brene Brown. If you haven't read her stuff, I highly, highly recommend reading her stuff. She talks about connection is why we are here. We are hardwired to connect with others. You know what? She's not talking about technology. She's talking about that human side, that human connection. People want to help others. There are so many stories of people helping others. And I came across this one last year. Actually, you know what? There's downsides of tech, and we all know that. We've probably experienced the downsides of tech. I've experienced them. I've been part of them. But there are there's so many positive stories being shared. I came across this one last year. I know you can't read that, so I'll read it to you. This is my son Dexter. He picked these flowers last spring for my wife. Dex passed away November 29th, shortly after his 3rd birthday, complications from leukemia. Can anyone clean this iPhone pickup or make a minimalist rendition from it? So this person, this father, posted this out and asked for help from complete strangers. And there were hundreds and hundreds of people that did a minimalist rendition of it. They had a connection. They wanted to help out. They were using their strengths because this person didn't have those strengths. And so a complete stranger created this. Something that they will cherish for the rest of their life. From a complete stranger. People love stories. They grab onto our heart and they move us to action. I'm sure you've heard of the Jamaican bobsled team. And when we do that, we think of 1988. Cool Runnings, the Disney movie. But actually, the Jamaican bobsled team has been around, and they've been in 92, 94, 98, 2002. They didn't make it in those other years, but they wanted to go to Sochi in 2014. But there was one problem. They had no money to get there. So they crowdsourced. They shared their story online, and people reached out. And they just connected with them because we know the story and we love the story of the Jamaican bobsled team. So this 2-man bobsled team raised over, well, in this site, almost $130,000. And with other things, it was almost $200,000 to get them to Sochi. They went there, they didn't last. But it was the experience of getting there. And just strangers helped them to get there. We used that at my former school. We had a family that lost everything in the fire. They didn't have much to start with, but they lost everything they had. And so we rallied around and we created a story online and shared it. And we were able to raise $3,500 just with this site. And in addition to that, people dropped off money. And we raised over $10,000 for this family at Christmas time so they could go back to their normal lifestyle. Right now is a very, very challenging time in BC education. If you're a BC teacher, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the fact that people are here is inspiring me because in spite of what's happening. So it's a nice break for a lot of us to be here, but I got to give a huge shout out to teachers what they're going through. And there's a movement on social media with this hashtag. This is my strike pay. And it's teachers sharing letters, images of what really means a lot to them. Images of students, letters from parents, letters from families, letters from students. And they're sharing this. And the cool part about it, it's not just BC. This is from all across the world. There's one from Australia chimed in the other day. So there's a movement because this hashtag is bringing people together. In spite of this total negative environment, there's this glimmer of positive with This Is My Strike Pay. So when people realize the benefit of connecting, the benefit of having that human connection, they make that change to connect. And it doesn't matter your age. This is my 82-year-old Aunt Pat. She's sitting in front of her laptop on Facebook. And this happened within the last couple of years. Because you know what? She says it like it is. She's like from Watson, Saskatchewan. She says it like it is. And she says, you know what? I'm pissed off because you all know about so much stuff before me. She was waiting for the letters. She was waiting for the visits. She was waiting for the pictures. And they came. But they always came like 2 weeks, a month after everyone knew. And so she wanted to be online. She wanted to connect. Now she's on Facebook. And she wrote me this on my first day at my new school. I wasn't able to stop in over Christmas because we had the flu, and she said, that's okay, I didn't want your flu. I keep track of you guys on here. I keep track of you guys on here. She's able to connect with us like she couldn't before. Good luck today. I know it won't be a problem for you. XOXO. I would have never got that message if it wasn't for social media. She would have thought about me. I know that. We would have caught up a couple weeks later. But that showed me that anybody can do this if they really want it and they see the value in it. I want to share a powerful story of connection, something I experienced a couple of years, well, in the last 2 years. This girl's name is Lily Jean, and she is in her first day of kindergarten. So I was her principal in her first day of kindergarten, and she may look young to you, because she's only 2.5. 2.5 years prior to this, she was born 5 days before our girls. So she's almost the same age to our friends, Andrew and Chelsea. And 10 months later, they were dealt a card that no one ever wants to be dealt. Their daughter was diagnosed with brain cancer. And they fought. They fought and fought. And the interesting part that's different than a lot of other people that fight is they shared their journey for the world. They shared on Facebook, on Twitter, on Chelsea's beautiful blog. She's an amazing writer, now writing a book. They shared it with the world, and they had over 10,000 people that embraced their journey online. And so I was part of that journey with them, from a distance, online, but also in person. And unfortunately, just after she turned 2, they were dealt another blow, because they were beating the one tumor in her brain, but another tumor showed up. And unfortunately, they had to make the awful decision of whether to continue with an awful form of life or embrace their daughter for who she is. And they chose to embrace life. They said, we've been dealt an awful hand, but you know what? We're going to dance in the rain. And we want everybody to dance with us. Sorry, Caroline, I said I was going to try to cry. And so they made a list of things that they could do, and they posted online for everybody to hear. So you had 10,000 people reaching out to this family through social media. We had a whole community of Agassiz, Chilliwack, Abbotsford that were reaching out to this family. They made a list of things like going on a horseback ride, driving a tractor, but also things like Halloween. They wanted another Halloween for Lily. And their whole community, their whole street decorated their house, all their houses. For Halloween, they did a trick-or-treating. And they had pictures of that, the whole community going through. They also did Christmas in August. And they had the Chilliwack Chiefs hockey team, without even knowing, because they had shared their story, out of the blue, dropped off 2 big truckloads of snow for Lily to play in on that Christmas. And the other thing that they did, they asked if she could have one day, her first day in kindergarten. Her first day in kindergarten. Well, there's an opportunity for me to help out my friends and to be part of this journey. And I asked my kindergarten teacher, hey, what do you think about this? And she already known about it. And we opened our doors for Lily to have her first day of kindergarten. She came to our school. It's a moment I will never forget. And her dad, Andrew, captured this moment, and it's in my office, and it's a life-changing moment for me. And shortly after her Christmas, in August, she turned for the worst and had to go into the Keynote place for hospice for care for kids. And we were all sitting there, all of these thousands of people going, how can we help this family? There's nothing we can do. But we decided, even though we'd never met, to get together using technology, using that connection to create a video of us dancing in the rain.
Sunshine, my only sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, when I lay sleeping, I dreamt I held.
And it goes on, there's about 20 of us that got together and did this, and many of them I've never met. And I just asked them to send me pictures, send me videos, and I would create a video for it, and we did that. And we sent it to them, and it was just one way of trying to do something for this family. So social media can bring us together because we crave that connection. And when we can't physically be there, when we can't physically get there, we can use social media to help us with that. And in education, we are tapping into this. People ask, well, how is social media changing education? And my response is, well, social media is not really changing education. But the people who are using social media are changing education. It's people like you who are connecting with others that are changing education. And these changes that are being made at quite a pace sometimes are scaring people. So people who are comfortable in what they're doing are getting scared of something new. And I know you probably experienced this with Flip Class, where people go, that's different. I don't like that. And they start to question you. And that's not a bad thing, as long as it's done respectfully. But the problem is some people stop there and they just disengage. And they don't explore it, they don't move deeper. Because when we talk about technology, and we talk about things like Flip Class, we often don't talk about the pedagogy behind it, and really the deeper part that's happening in our classes, the spaces that are being created. We often focus on devices and apps. But is it really about devices? As you can see, this is copying. Guess if you can mute your sound. So it's less about the devices, it's less about technology. It's less about social media and more about the relationships, more about the stories. It's all about the people behind it. It's all about us. It's all about educators, helping others, sharing ideas, throwing ideas out there, mashing them up, remixing them, living in beta, and about that human connection. So what is a connected educator? Well, to me, a connected educator is just as simply someone who connects with other educators. And that can be across the hall, that can be down the hall, that can be in another school, that can be across the city, in another state, another province, another country. So it does have to happen within our school. You can be connected with people in your school, and that is very important. But we can enhance that by using social media to connect with others. So it doesn't have to be online, but I highly recommend it because then you get more and more connection and more ideas to bounce off each other. When we bounce ideas off each other, we get more innovation. And I'll let Steve Johnson share a little bit about that.
For the past 5 years, I've been investigating this question of where good ideas come from. The other thing that's important when you think about ideas this way is that when ideas take form in this hunch state, they need to collide with other hunches. Oftentimes, the thing that turns a hunch into a real breakthrough is another hunch that's lurking in somebody else's mind. And you have to figure out a way to create systems that allow those hunches to come together and turn into something bigger than the sum of their parts. That's why, for instance, the coffee house in the Age of the Enlightenment, or the Parisian salons of modernism, were such engines of creativity, because they created a space where ideas could mingle and swap and create new forms. When you look at the problem of innovation from this perspective, it sheds a lot of important light on the debate we've been having recently about what the internet is doing to our brains. Are we getting overwhelmed with an always connected, multitasking lifestyle? And is that going to lead to less sophisticated thoughts as we move away from the slower, deeper, contemplative state of reading, for instance? Obviously, I'm a big fan of reading, but I think it's important to remember that the great driver of scientific innovation and technological innovation has been the historic increase in connectivity and our ability to reach out and exchange ideas with other people, and to borrow other people's hunches and combine them with our hunches and turn them into something new. That really has, I think, been, more than anything else, the primary engine of creativity and innovation over the last 600 or 700 years. And so yes, it's true we're more distracted. But what has happened that is really miraculous and marvelous over the last 15 years is that we have so many new ways to connect and so many new ways to reach out and find other people who have that missing piece that will complete the idea we're working on, or to stumble serendipitously across some amazing new piece of information that we can use to build and improve our own ideas. That's the real lesson of where good ideas come from. The chance favors the connected mind.
So maybe I have an idea, but I don't know how to implement it, or I'm struggling to implement it. But maybe Jerry has done it. So maybe I have half the idea, and he's got another idea, and we can come together and have those hunches collide to create something that works for my students and our students. Because as he said, chance favors that connected mind. And it just makes sense. And this idea has a huge impact on professional learning, because no longer is professional learning an event. Yes, we have this event, and these events, these face-to-face events, are very, very important. But what happens is these face-to-face events are enhanced by our relationships online. So I've met a few of you online, and I get to see you face-to-face. You don't think that relationship is stronger because I've already had conversations with you prior to this? Absolutely. And it can happen whenever we want, wherever we want. So I generally read at 6 in the morning when I get up. It's like my time, because the kids aren't up. I just have a half hour to read blogs. I can read, I can comment. It doesn't matter if someone else is over there. They can comment when they're ready. We can engage whenever we need to. So we can read, we can take time to reflect, digest, and then share it back out there. We can even tweak the idea and share it back out there. Prior to my journey in social media, which started in about 2009, my staff was my network. My staff still is my number one network. We don't ever want to change that. Those are the most important people in our educational journey. However, my network now has blown up. It's global. There are people I can connect with about any particular idea. If there's flip class, I know. If I have a question about flip class, I know people I can go to. If it's about chemistry, I know someone I can go to. If it's about self-regulation, I know someone to go to. Because now it's not just about what you know, and it's not just about who you know, it's about what who you know knows. It's about what who you know knows. So do you know who you know knows? And practice that one. And that's not for me, that's Howard Reiner. And I love that because it's about the wisdom of you. You have a wealth of knowledge and experience that I get to tap into when we're connected. And I have a little bit of experience that you can tap into when we're connected. And who benefits from that? Our kids. Education in general benefits from that. I recently moved to a new school, and people in my network helped me in a huge way making that move. I've never moved schools as an administrator. So in January, I'm on move from Anglesey to Langley. So I switched districts, and it's closer to home, but I switched schools too. Well, the cool part of it, I was already connected with a teacher in that school through Twitter. I was already connected with people like Victoria Olsen in Langley. I was connected with Victoria's principal, Sean Davids. And so I already knew what was happening in Langley. I was at just a small glimpse, but that made my transition that much better. And also the fact that I posted my ideas for the world to see. Any teacher, any staff member from James Hill can go online and see my views on things like assessment, technology, awards, rewards, punishment, discipline, all of those things that I've written about. And in the first week, a teacher sat down with me and said, I read a couple of your blog posts on rewards, and I really wanted to dive deeper in that because I do use rewards in the classroom. First week, and we're going to dive into this? That is awesome. So we had a respectful dialogue on that. Also, a friend of mine, Cale Burke out of Kamloops, who I met, it sounds funny to say I met a guy online, but I met him online, and we have similar families. We become good friends. He moved to a new school in September. I said to him, okay, I'm moving in January, give me some advice. And he gave me a piece of advice that really helped to build trust with my staff. He said, carve out 15 to 30 minutes for each staff member. I was like, what? He said, yes, carve out 15 to 30 minutes. So we created a Google Doc on a spreadsheet, and people signed up for times in the morning and after school. And I met with every staff member in the first 2 months for 30 minutes. And I asked questions like, what are you passionate about? What moves you? What's your story of education? And how can I best support that? And is there anything I can do differently? Which was a very, very powerful piece because it showed I was a learner, but it gave the chance for them to give me feedback. Because apparently I was modeling the use of technology, and that was overwhelming people. They weren't ready for that, and they thought that was an expectation. So boom, I was able to change based on that. And now because we're going through this very, very difficult time in education in BC, which we're going to get through, but my goal is that when we get through that, then we're going to still be a team at James Hill. But we built that relationship. We have built that relationship at our school because of these little needs, because of my connection with Kale. So when we're online, when we're sharing ideas, others can benefit from that. And they just grow and grow. And when we share ideas, we share stories. It's no longer okay to have an idea and hold it. It's no longer powerful to do work if nobody sees it. We need to share what we're doing. It's not fair. If Carl's doing awesome things in his classroom, it's not fair if my kids don't get a benefit from that. I want to steal those ideas. So we need to share these ideas. Open the windows to your classrooms. Open the windows to your learning environments so people like me can steal those ideas and have it benefit our kids. And that's where education is going to really make a change. Now, I often, when I say that, people say, well, what do I have to share? I'm just a typical teacher. What am I going to share? Well, you know what? What's ordinary to you may be extraordinary to someone else. And moving to a new school showed me that. Because there are little processes and little strategies that they use and ideas that they use at James Hill. They used at James Hill before I got there. That I went, whoa, why didn't I think of that? That just made my life so much easier. From something as simple as how we enter an assembly. And there was just something that was ordinary to them, but to me, it really made a huge difference. So when you say, what could I share? I don't know, why don't you find out? Share something. Tweet something. Tweet an idea. Tweet a thought. It doesn't have to be controversial. Just tweet something. Or blog about it. And go into it a little bit deeper. I hear this. I saw this ironically on Twitter. I didn't want to put the person who wrote that on there, but they were new at Twitter. He said, the best teachers focus on doing great things in their classroom and don't waste time bragging about it online. What if we all did that? What if we all just shut our doors and didn't share anything? Well, we know what would happen. It would be further compartmentalized in education, and we would not grow as a system. It just wouldn't work. We wouldn't have got where we are, because people have shared in books, and that's work, but now we have a chance to share with the world. Okay? We can put our work on the refrigerator, on the virtual refrigerator for everyone to see. So what would happen if we did this? Well, let me ask you this question. What would happen if we did what this child does? So he is a child, I think he's 10 years old, and he has a YouTube channel called Bushwhack. And he does all these outdoor skills. And he puts them online, and he shares what he does. But he couldn't get this one. He could not start a fire with a bow drill. So he puts it on there, and he tries for a good 3 or 4 minutes, and it's not working. And I love the line. About a minute in, he says, I know I'm doing it wrong. Please comment below so you can teach me how to do it. So my question is, what if we all did that? What if we shared our things that we're struggling with and asked for feedback? If a 10-year-old can do it, well, maybe we can do that. And teachers are doing that. Not only are they sharing the good things, they're sharing the stuff they're struggling with and asking for support. They're asking for feedback because they want to do well. Kids want to do well. We want to do well. And I get it. There are many structures in education that create isolation. We have classrooms, we have timetables, we have bells. Excuse me. All of those things create isolation. But as my buddy George Curl says, isolation is now a choice educators make. It's very hard not to connect with people because there's so many people connected through technology, but also through collaborative time. There are just the isolation of shutting the door and just let me do what I'm going to do is a choice that people are now making. And as leaders, I don't mean formal leaders, I mean leaders, because we are all leaders. By being here, we are leaders. I think it's important that we bring our organizations together. And one way to do this is a hashtag. So if your district, your division, if your school is large enough and they don't have a hashtag, you need to have one. Our school district in Langley, so there's a few of us from there, we have a hashtag called Think35. And that's brought us together. I get to see what's happening in all these different schools just by following that hashtag. So if your district doesn't have that, do it, because it can bring together and it takes those pockets and expands and crosses over. SD36 Learn is another one. One of the largest districts in Canada has been brought together by a hashtag. Something so simple, because people can then use it. BC EdChat is another one. So use these in your district, because when we are connected, we have that network of support. And we can achieve great success by supporting each other. Because our traditional view of success, above, hands on top, has often been about defeating others. And I think even corporations are moving past that. We're redefining success. We're redefining competition. We're redefining collaboration. Because people are sharing their ideas and raising the bar of what they're doing. It doesn't have to be zero-sum, where you have a winner and a loser. And I'll let John C. Brown share what surfers are doing, what they're learning.
And it turns out that if you kind of meet these guys, they all come together very much like a guild in the World of Warcraft. And what they do is they compete with each other and they collaborate with each other incredibly intensely. They pick up a new move. They dash down the hill, they try it out, they take their video cameras with them, they're videoing each other, they dash back up here, they start kind of analyzing what worked, what didn't work, build new ideas, dash down the hill and try it out. And then what they start doing is they start looking at, of course, all the other people surfing around the world, take it from YouTube and all this kind of stuff. They start picking up new moves like that. It's kind of interesting way that digital media has enhanced the ability of these surfing kids to pick up all kinds of new tricks. And I can actually show you how a particular move now on the surfboard takes about 48 hours to propagate around the world before all the key surfers in the world, on the top edge, are trying it out for themselves. Okay? And of course, anytime something changes, they're the first to try it out and to appropriate it. So these kids live for picking up something new. They live for trying out something new. What makes these ideas so relevant now is in a world of rapid change, any particular skill that I've learned is apt to have a moderately short shelf life. So what I really need to do is to know, how to create context for myself that I keep scaffolding and learning and accelerating what I know to increase my own performance. And so there's a sense of what I'm doing becomes a platform for doing something new, learning something new, and becoming even better.
We are no longer in a world where people hold their ideas to themselves. People are sharing. Surfers are sharing. My wife is a dance teacher, and dance is like cutthroat, and people have always held on to the choreography. And now even dance teachers and choreographers are sharing it for the world, and educators are doing the same thing. And we had an interesting conversation at our ed camp a couple months ago. And Carl, Blinkered Striker, did I say that right? Carl was there, out from California, and we sat and talked about, I was facilitating a conversation on awards, rethinking awards in schools, in elementary schools particularly, but in awards in schools in general. And we started talking a little bit about competition in schools. And this is where the great thing happened. Because Carl, after that, reached out. So the next day he sent me a tweet saying, hey, I want to talk a little bit more about your view on competition in schools, because he was kind of going back and forth in his head. He had an idea, half of an idea, I had ideas, and we collided. And we started getting deeper and deeper, and then we took it to Voxer. And Voxer is like a walkie-talkie app, so you can talk, and it saves, and you can have a conversation through the app. And he added a gentleman named Scott Bedley, who's a teacher from California as well. And so over the last month and a half, we've had this conversation. So a conversation that started at a professional development event has continued for a month and a half. And we started to talk about what John C. Brown was talking about, is maybe competition is being redefined in education. I know we can't really redefine the term competition, but how we think about it, maybe we can. Because if I see what's happening in Andy's classroom, and I can see that, and he's raised the bar, I want to get to that bar. Maybe I want to beat him, but I don't want to defeat him. But I want to take that to an even larger level. And that's how we're moving, and that's how we're building educators up, and that's how we're benefiting our kids. Just like dance teachers are doing that, just like surfers are doing that. So with so many people sharing their work online, many are driven to raise that bar. Whether that's competition, I'm not sure. But it is raising the bar for so many of us. And that's how we create positive change. We know education and change doesn't go at a rapid pace. It's very difficult to create change. However, it's people like you and people who are connected and online, whether it's through Pinterest or LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, whatever it may be, we're connecting with others that are increasing the pace. Because now we can't say, well, we can't do that, when we know someone else is doing it. So the question moves from, can we do it, to, well, how can we do that at our school? And that's a big difference. Can we? You can answer no. How can we? There's no answer in that. So you can take an idea from someone else and create real education reform. Because real education reform does not come from the top. It doesn't come from policy. It doesn't come from new curriculum. It doesn't come from a brand new standardized test. It comes from educators. It comes from people who are doing it already, who are not waiting for the new curriculum, they're just doing it. And from people, leaders who are creating space for this to happen. As Dylan Williams says, pedagogy trumps curriculum every time. What you do in the classroom will trump curriculum every single time. So no matter what change comes from the outside, what you do is really going to drive it. And that's how we expand the pockets. We all know there's pockets in our own schools, there's pockets in our districts, and we can expand that through those connections. Unfortunately, we do have those silos, but it's the social media that can help us change those silos and open up those doors. Great ideas. You may have a great idea, but there's often someone who has another piece to that. We often have ideas. If you commute, you probably have tons of ideas in your head, and you're trying to think about how to implement them. Like I said, there could be someone out there that is already doing that, or can help you to remix it, mash it up, and create change in your classroom. One of the ideas that I stole from Alberta, one of George Gross's assistant principals shared something on Identity Day. Identity Day is a day when kids present on themselves. There's no grade, no marks, no criteria, but amazing projects. And what happens is they get a long time to do it. You share some examples to get them started. And 2 days or 3 days prior to the event, they bring in their projects to work on them at school. And when they do that, you see that there's a bar up here and a bar here. And what happens is the bar keeps going up because people go, oh, I like what she did. I'm going to use that. So there's no marks, but tons of assessment. Tons of feedback from each other, from teachers, from the principal as I walk around the schools, and the staff all do it as well. And we're sharing who we are. That's the Identity Day piece. And the reason that I put up her picture is because a month before this, I had a meeting with her mom about how she was getting picked on in school. She was getting excluded. She was kind of that invisible student. Never did anything wrong, never said anything, but didn't have a lot of friends and didn't get a lot of attention in school, the love and care from peers as well as from staff, because she just kind of blended in. And so the mom used the term bullying and said she was being bullied by being excluded. And I had to agree that she probably was. But what happened on Identity Day is she shared her passion for art. And she drew pictures of animals. And it was great on the day of Identity Day, but the next day, someone who hardly ever talked to her brought in a picture of their animal, of their pet, and said, can you draw my pet? She did. And then more and more people kept bringing it in. A month later, the mom came to me specifically to talk about Identity Day, how that had changed her daughter's life. And I'm not a big fan of single-day events and how they can change everything. But for this child, it did. Because it led to her being more confident, others seeing her strength, others seeing who she is. And all of a sudden, she started to believe in herself. She started speaking more, she gained more friends. And that was a year ago, and I've moved away from that school, but I imagine she's flourishing still. The other example I want to share, in BC, the professional learning community model is a difficult one. It's viewed as very top-down. And the teachers don't really appreciate that in a majority of schools. It works in some schools, but it's rare. And so I knew this, and I wanted to have a professional learning community model at our school. So I posted a tweet saying, anybody use this in BC elementary schools? And a lady named Dr. Janet Lauman, principal in Delta, tweeted me back saying, hey, you know what? I did my doctorate dissertation on this. And she sent me the link. It's the only doctorate dissertation I've ever read. But it was awesome. It was relevant, it was BC, and it said, you know what? The PLC model doesn't really work in BC. But try this. It was a living systems model where all I did was ask people what they're passionate about, what they're curious about, and create the structures to create space for people to meet. So if we had 3 people interested in using more formative assessment or creating online portfolios, I could provide time in the schedule, in the day, for those key people to meet. And it wasn't for everybody. I couldn't provide it for everybody at one time, but up to 3 teachers. So I had to tweak the schedule so I could do that. And that all came from Janet. And we made it work at our school. So we had teachers that were full of joy because they got to explore an area of their passion which they never had time to do before. And they got to meet, again, connect, not online, connect face-to-face with people in their own school. And we had some great changes that happened from that. Technology being one of them, blogging, things like that. So when we create space for teachers to explore and tinker and create that collab time, we see magic happen. Now, I've talked a lot about the positives, and sometimes we also need to challenge. We need to challenge each other online. Like Carolyn mentioned, she challenged me. And I'll talk about that in a second, but we need to seek those intellectual collisions, and this is a Clayton Christensen term. Seek out intellectual collisions. Seek ideas that challenge and support you. We all need critical friends. And you'll get a lot of, yeah, great idea. But sometimes you'll get a respectful, have you thought of this? Hey, you know what, I tried that and I tweaked it, think about this. Critical friends are so important. They give us honest feedback and engage in respectful dialogue. So often we have challenging conversations, but we also need to be very clear on what we're saying. So when we say flip class, when we say assessment, what do we really mean? If we don't do that, if we're not clear on our communication, sometimes things can go wrong.
Okay, then Lauren's going to catch you. Okay, it's called the trust fall. Okay, trust fall. Ready, set, go.
So are we communicating clearly when we connect? Are we using the terminology that we actually mean? It's not so much about what we say and what we write, it's what's heard and what's read. So we have to really work to seek to understand. Because these intellectual collisions can be very powerful, but they can also go off when we have the wrong meaning of what we're saying. I've had conversations about assessment, and I was like all about assessment, talking about formative assessment, and the other person was like angry at me because she thought I was talking about standardized tests. Both assessment, but very different meanings. So when we're using terms, we have to be clear that we define them, and that's what Carolyn did. So I went back and I found a tweet from me in November 2011, and I said, I must have been feeling very confident at this point, we need to get off this flipped instructions, innovative, and the change needed train, and start talking deeper reform. Well, aren't I, one to talk about that? And Carolyn could have walked away. She could have said, what a prick. She could have walked away from that. She might have. But she came back, and she engaged with me for like a few weeks, a few months, and we talked about Flip Class, and then I subscribed to her blog. I saw, holy cow, she's not just sending videos home for homework or showing Khan Academy. She's changed her whole classroom environment. She's doing like interviews with kids. She's doing project-based learning, inquiry, the assessment practice she uses. And I was like, she flipped everything. And 6 months later, in April, I'm like defending her. So someone was questioning Flip Class, and I said, I appreciate how Carolyn has taken the Flip model and changed the entire class structure. So what Carolyn did was engaged with me in a respectful dialogue that changed me. It changed my view because I was defining Flip Class as videos for homework. That's it. When actually it was much, much deeper. So I thank Carolyn for that. And it's the irony of her asking to come here after that was interesting. But I have grown, and I have grown to love what's happening. Brett Clark is another one. Graham is another one that I've watched what's happened in the Flip Class model. So there are some people that are just sending videos home for homework, I get it. But the majority of people that are truly making a difference are creating space with the Flip Class model. So when we have these conversations, we have to seek to understand where the other person's coming from. And we have to be clear on what we're saying. I have a real concern for binary thinking out there. I have a real concern. I like Alfie Kohn. I like what he says. But you know what? His statements, that if we give, I don't know if he said this, but if we give worksheets, we are committing educational malpractice. Really? Okay, I'm not a big fan of worksheets. I get it. But if I give a worksheet that starts a child's journey on guided inquiry, is that a bad thing? So we have to define what we mean by worksheets. And we have to stop saying these big, powerful statements. And maybe he can do that because he's just trying to grab attention. But for us, we need to stop with those retweets of these powerful statements like that really don't define what we do. Am I a bad person because I gave a worksheet today? Am I a bad person because I assigned some homework for a child to read with their family? No. So we've got to live in this gray area. There are so many shades of gray. When I say shades of gray, you know what I think of? Is my mom reading that book, and that just is wrong. Anyways, so I digress. So we have these big blanket conversations that we have on homework, on assessment, on tests. Multiple choice is another one. You know, we're harming kids when we use multiple choice tests. And you know what? If that's all we do, yes, okay, that's not good. But if I do a quick little poll everywhere or something of my kids to find out they're learning, is that a bad thing? I use multiple choice, I'm not harming kids. So we've got to live in these shades of gray, these gray areas, because very few issues are black and white. And binary thinking, often we're so far apart that it steers us away from the real conversation we have to have. So few people, when you're this far apart, will come here. So when you're using social media and you have that binary thinking, and you realize you're not going to get anywhere, walk away. Because what happens is that it gets personal. People don't know how to debate in that because they're so far apart, and the attacks become personal. And I've seen that in the flip class community. I've seen that with a personal friend of mine that's going through a hard time right now because of it. And it's wrong. But that's the binary thinking. So before it gets to that point, you need to walk away. People will say things online. This is the bad part. People will say things online that they would never say to your face. And that's something we need to walk away from and don't engage in. I've engaged in that when I first started, and I've just learned to not engage with certain people, and I've learned to walk away. And some of you know who those certain people are in BC. I love Jimmy Fallon. I think what Jimmy Fallon is doing to share his stories, using social media, and relating to a younger generation and an older generation is phenomenal. My wife is like, I watch that show. But I'm watching more Jimmy Fallon online than I am on TV. Probably because I have 3-year-olds and I can't stay up that late. But what he's done with social media, it's caught the attention of so many. And I love what he did with Robinson Cano. If you're a baseball fan, you know who Robinson Cano is. Okay, so he left the Yankees for a $240 million contract to go to the Seattle Mariners. Probably I would do the same thing. He came back to New York to play, and Jimmy Fallon had one of his guys go and ask people what they would say to Robinson Cano if he came back. Let's check it out.
Well, Robinson Cano is coming back to Yankee Stadium tomorrow night for the first time since becoming a Seattle Mariner. Are you going to move him?
Yeah.
Well, whenever you're ready, go ahead. All right. Give him your best move.
Boo! You suck!
That was awesome. Maybe try it again.
Should I try it again?
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back to New York.
It's easy to hide behind this screen, this curtain. But when you're face to face with someone, we automatically be more respectful. So when you're engaging online, be respectful. And if someone is not doing it, walk away. Don't engage with that. Because it takes away from the value of sharing stories. And as educators, we need to share stories. We need to share those stories because that's how we share ideas. And when ideas are shared, they grow. They don't shrink. The good ideas grow really, really well. We love stories. We've loved stories from ages and ages ago. Good stories capture our hearts. And they move us. So what stories are being told about education? Who is telling them? Are you telling the story of what's happening in your classroom? Or is someone else who's never even been to your school? Is someone ranking your school based on a test score? Is that the story that's being told? Or are the stories that you're sharing through social media, through a window in, or a website, even a website that share the stories that's happening in your classroom? Are your kids sharing the stories? We need to be the storytellers of our school. And I'll share one example of what happened at our school recently. So I came there, we didn't have a social media presence. And so what I do is I go into classrooms and I share what's happening on our Facebook page. And one time I did share something that I did. What happened was a kid lost her tooth, and the caring teacher put the tooth in the tooth chest, and what a lot of caring teachers do, they take that moment to help a child out. And this child went outside, and they lost their lost tooth. And they fell. And they came to me, and their hands were all bloody and everything like that, but she didn't care about her hands, she cared about her lost tooth. And so I said, hey, okay, what if we have this idea that, how about you and I sit down and we write a letter to the tooth fairy, and you can put that letter in your tooth. So I used it before, it really worked. You want to try that? I said, put on a real formal letter and everything. So she was excited. Okay, we sat down, we wrote this letter. And what I did is I took a screenshot and I posted it on our Facebook page. And the crazy thing was that the local, or the Vancouver radio station, JRFM, got a hold of it somehow, I'm not sure, and they shared it on their Facebook page. And it just went crazy after that. It was picked up by Huffington Post, CTV News, Global News. We were getting Facebook comments from France, from Germany. I have no idea what they're saying. Thank you, Google Translate. Luckily, they weren't anything bad, but I was able to see what people were saying. Like, it just went crazy. I've never had that happen before, which was great. A positive story being shared, but it also made it very clear that people have no idea all the caring moments that go on in schools. They think this is unique. This happens all the time, these caring moments. So we need to share those moments, to share the stories of what's happening in our school. We need to provide a window into our classrooms. For me to see in, for parents to see in, for the community to see in what's happening so we can share those stories. It's not the same as being here, I get it, but it can be a small glimpse. There's a school in Brazil that shared something that I just love. A school of English language learners in Brazil had a problem. They had kids that wanted to speak English with someone. There was another problem in the US. There was seniors in a care home that could not. They didn't have someone to speak to. So check out what this company did.
Hello.
Who is that?
I did.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
This is the first time that I'm talking with someone from another country.
I'm very excited to be doing this.
I look like I'm only 25.
I'm with my old brother. He has 23 years.
Do you know, instead of saying he has 23 years, you could say he is 23 years old.
Julia, good morning to you.
This is your dad? That's me and my wife when we were young.
Oh, you were good looking. You're still good looking.
Thank you for this change of experience, You are incredible. Obrigado.
You are my new granddaughter.
And I love you.
I love you too.
And if you were here, I would give you a big hug.
Oh yeah, that's a
Bye.
Bye.
The company used technology to do something that we couldn't do without it. They transformed learning for those kids, and they made the life of those seniors better as well. And that's what we need to use technology to do, is connect. Connect our kids with other people. Connect us with each other. When we do that, we have ideas, and then Matt really says, we have ideas that have sex. I didn't realize I didn't make, but they have sex, and they bounce off each other. And they reproduce, and they grow. He talks about in his TED Talk, about how the prehistoric tools, they were the same for 5 million years. Yet a mouse has a lifespan of about 5 years. Why? Because of the ideas that are shared, the innovation that are shared right now. And we're tapping into that with education. So it's your move. What are you going to do right now as a result of you being here today and yesterday? What are you going to do next week as a result of that? I challenge you to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Move out of your comfort zone. Reflect. Start change with one thing. Just one. Stay connected with the people that are here. If you've connected with someone, stay connected using social media for that. Share your ideas. Tweet. Get that first tweet out there if you haven't done it. If you haven't done it for a while, get back on board. Blog. Start a classroom blog. Start a professional blog if you want. Connect with those across the hall. Because that's how we're going to make education move forward. As I said, the world is your refrigerator. You could put it up there for everyone to see. And I love this quote from Cheryl Ness Palm Beach. This isn't Vegas. What happens in your classroom shouldn't stay in your classroom. Share it with the world. Because if this guy can try something new, so can you. So do something now, start small, get out of your comfort zone, expand your comfort zone, get comfortable being uncomfortable, and do something to stay connected to the people here. I want to thank you so much for having me here, allowing me to share my journey with you, and I'll leave it to my daughter to say the last word.